Chapter 25. Outside the courthouse, near the statue of General Stratton, they stopped to catch a breath. Rodney Wall was smiling ear to ear as though he had just pulled off a major victory and wanted everyone to slap him on the back. No one did. Woody and Tony were sick of the guy. Daisy didn't trust him. Major Ludwig held him in low esteem. "Congratulations," Rodney said, and then waited for someone to congratulate him. "When do we go back to court?" Daisy asked. On the drinking charges. "I'll check with the judge, let you know, but it's nothing to worry about." They nodded and said nothing, and Rodney finally took a hint. "Well, gotta run now. Got some new clients down at the jail." No one said goodbye. They watched him walk away, and before Tony could say something unpleasant about him, the major said, "I guess you two should hustle back to school." Woody and Tony nodded. These days they were terrified about missing class. The major said, "I'm starving. Pappy's should be cleared by now. My treat." Pappy's Deli was a legendary downtown hole-in-the-wall that was famous for its pastrami subs and onion rings, and both boys jumped at the chance. The four of them took off down Main Street, walking briskly and chatting about the trial. They were innocent. No more worries about being shipped off to a juvenile detention center. No more fears about the future. They had stuck to the truth, testified to it faithfully, and Judge Pendergrass believed them. Daisy said less than the others. As her mother, she was overjoyed almost to the point of tears. Her boys would no longer be treated like criminals. Both seemed determined to stay out of trouble. Perhaps she could sleep now. Perhaps her life was finally taking a turn for the better. Theo was suffering, through another boring study hall with Mr. Mount. He was going through the motions of doing homework, but his mind was elsewhere. He firmly believed that he had the right to be in youth court that morning to witness the trial and to provide assistance if necessary. After all, he knew as much about the case as anyone. He had led the charge to free Woody and Tony from jail. He had advised Woody along the way. He had coached him with his testimony. He had provided crucial advice, especially about the bribe. He knew far more about the case than Woody's lawyer. However, none of that mattered. There he was, staring at Spanish verbs and thinking of nothing but the proceedings before Judge Pendergrass. He had a large knot in his stomach that made it hard to concentrate. What if Woody and Tony were found guilty? What if Judge Pendergrass didn't believe him but instead found Garth to be a more credible witness? What if Woody got sentenced to some dreadful juvenile prison? His cell phone vibrated. Normally all cell phones were confiscated by Mr. Mount at the beginning of each class and placed in a cardboard box on his desk. But because of the trial, Theo had been allowed to keep his, just in case there was news. There was. When he texted, "Trial over. Lambert boys not guilty. Not guilty. Free at last." "All right," Theo blurted as he jumped to his feet. "What is it, Theo?" Mr. Mount asked as his entire class jolted to attention. They turned onto a narrow side street and arrived at Pappy's minutes before 2 p.m. They found a table in the corner, placed their orders, sipped colas and iced tea as they waited and talked. "How serious is my little probation thing?" Tony asked the major. "Serious. You heard the judge all but promise more jail time, but it might be something we can work around." "I don't understand," Daisy said. "Well, jail would mean absence from school. Right now Tony's in class and his grades are improving. We should delay the hearing and give both of you time to show perfect attendance in school and a big improvement in grades. Both of you, get the grades up. Get a couple of letters from your teachers, and I can go to the judge and lean on him." "You've done this before?" Daisy asked. "Yes, it's my role as a youth court volunteer. Judge Pendergrass is rather old-fashioned and places great emphasis on education. Show him you're serious about school, and he'll cut you some slack. He'll also want random drug tests for the next year." "For both of us?" Woody asked. "Sure, why not? You're not messing with anything, right?" Right, but I just don't want to get embarrassed by some random drug test. You won't be embarrassed. It's routine and you'll have no choice. They can do it, Daisy said firmly. Their lunch arrived and the small table was quickly covered with large platters of thick subs and piles of hot onion rings. Enough food for 10. Daisy worried too much to eat. Major Ludwig was an old soldier with an iron discipline and refused to gain an ounce. Woody and Tony, though, were teenage boys, and they attacked the food like starving refugees. After a few silent moments of serious eating, Daisy asked the Major, "So what happens next with Garth?" "Oh, I have no idea. That's another matter in another court." "Will Woody and Tony be forced to testify in this trial?" he asked. The Major wiped his mouth with a paper napkin, shrugged and said, "I would think so, if his case goes all the way to jury trial." "What, do you think it will?" Tony asked. "I have no inside knowledge, but I doubt that Garth will ever face a jury. He's dead guilty and he can't lie his way out of it. There are 3 eyewitnesses, the 2 of you and the guy at the store, plus the surveillance cameras. I suspect Clifford Nance will figure out a way to keep him away from a jury out of jail." "How can he possibly avoid jail?" Daisy asked. The Major shrugged again. "His family has money. He has the best lawyer. It's his first offense. Nobody got hurt. I hate to say it, Daisy, but there are different rules for different people. It's not fair, but it's the way the system goes." And thought Woody and Tony, he has a pocket full of cash to bribe someone else. "Let's worry about Garth later," the Major said. "Today is a great day for the Lambert family, so let's savor the win." "Great idea," Tony said. Theo called an emergency session for 4 p.m. at Guff's Frozen Yogurt on Main Street. He arrived early, talked to the owner, and got 2 long tables in the rear. They filled quickly as almost all of Mr. Mount's homeroom arrived. Mr. Mount himself walked in at 4 on the dot and ordered double caramel fudge. When Woody strolled in alone, he set off a small roar as his friends welcomed him and gave him a seat of honor. After a round of high fives and fist pumps, and even a hug or 2, Woody attacked a coconut cream as Theo called for her order. He held his hands out dramatically and said, "Once again, my fellow Americans, justice has prevailed. The innocent have been set free. The wheels of justice have produced the right verdict." "Blah, blah, blah," Chase added and got a laugh. Theo pretended to ignore him. "Woody, congratulations. Now all of us are dying to hear what happened in court, and start at the beginning." Woody took a big bite of frozen yogurt, savored at the attention, and said, "Well, I was never that worried." And that's the end of The Accomplice. This book has really, caught me on edge, throughout the whole book. I was wondering what will happen, especially when Theo is, questioning about the judicial system and how, such things can happen, like injustice. And sadly it does happen. I've seen it happen. I've experienced it, by my own personal, firsthand experiences with it. But it just depends, and the situation that Woody and Tony faced is real. Poor people really do have, the low-end beginner lawyers, or if they are experienced, they have so many cases that they can't really focus on, just your case. So you're just basically a number with that kind of situation. So I really feel for Woody and Tony, throughout their struggles with their lawyer. And but in most cases, just does prevail, as Theo, like said at the end. But not all of them do, and that's a hard truth. But yeah, we're going to read the next story as soon as I can. I believe it's my favorite one, The Activist, which was the first book that I've read in the series, which got me into Theodore Boone in the first place. So, I don't know when I'm going to read it, but as soon as I get some time for it, I will. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this this reading. And I'll see you guys next time, all right? Take care.